Imagine you're the parent of a 5-year-old. Your 5-year-old has been watching the circus ads on television, hearing it in the media, and begging you, Mom, take me to the circus. You wonder, is 5 too young to go to the circus? But you brush away your doubts and you buy the tickets. When the big day arrives, you go all out. You say yes to cotton candy and helium balloons, overpriced Frankfurter and soda pop. On the way home in the car, your child is quiet for a while. And then suddenly,
That circus was dumb.
dumb? What do you mean it was dumb?
Well, there wasn't enough stuff in it.
There was all kinds of things in the circus. We saw them training the tigers.
Well, those tigers were smelly too. Ugh.
Well, of course, animals smell.
But ugh. I don't like to be around the
You
smelly
begged
stuff.
me to go to a circus, and I spent all that money and took all that time to take you. I let you have cotton candy, and I let you have soda.
Well, it wasn't fun.
It wasn't fun. That's all we did today was because you wanted to go.
Well, it just I don't know. It wasn't fun to do, and I didn't want to be there. And there was too many people. There's a lot of people. I was never.
You begged me to go. You sure seemed like you were having fun when you said, Mommy, Mommy, please, can I have this? Can I have that?
I don't think I really said I begged you. I had a little interest in it, but that was just.
I just knew I shouldn't have taken you. You're just too young to understand these things, and there's just no pleasing you. I'm not taking you to the circus again.
Take the cat.
What were your feelings during this conversation? Did you imagine yourself being the parent or the child? Maybe you had a similar situation with a child of any age about any activity or similar experience. And how did the conversation play out?
Well, hello, this is Don
And this is Gina.
with Focused Healthy Family, and this is podcast number 88. And today we're talking about feelings. We're kind of going through some stuff that comes from the book How to Talk So Kids Will Listen and Listen So Kids Will Talk. We talked about books on the last podcast, and we just wanted to kind of delve into this one a little bit more.
We're giving you an example of what we play out, the workbook that comes with being a part of the workshop that we do based on this book. And the big first chapter and essential part of it is acknowledging feelings.
Yeah, and in that scenario, as the child, I was scared. Everything about it was a little overwhelming. It probably played on my senses. Got too overloaded in my senses with all the things going on, and the animals, kind of scared me. But as a kid, I wanted to, well, with other kids, I wanted to act cool. So I wanted to act like this was fine. But I bottled that scaredness up in me. And when I I just want to blurt out something to cover up how scared I was.
Well, and you said a lot of times kids maybe can't get to what their feeling is. And they make a statement like that, and we don't take the time to understand what's going on behind it. It's easy to react in the moment. You're tired. It's been a busy day. Maybe it wasn't that fun for you, or you wanted your kid to have fun so much that you're really upset that they didn't.
You take it personally, as a parent. And then you want it, a lot of times you want to fix it, solve it, or you want to, justify your position that you've taken it personally.
Well, and it's like we're trying to convince the child you really did have fun. And so what happens when we do that? When we don't pay attention, when the cat's right in front of our face and it's telling us something. So when we don't pay attention, so when the child, said that was dumb, how could we have responded differently to that? And how does that conversation play out differently when you can take a few minutes? We tend to react oftentimes rather than respond. And that's something that we talk about with this book and this workshop. And
we delve into that because because we always talk about, because in this particular case, that's a behavior that child's doing, is that blurting out. And we talk about the fact that behavior is a form of communication. It's what's underlying the behavior is what you have to really look into. And these
Mm-hmm.
feelings that they're dealing with are the underlying thing. The fact that she was scared but didn't know how to really express that right, and I shouldn't say right, that's not a good way, but didn't know how to really get it out.
Well, how to express what they were actually feeling.
Yes.
And, you know, any of us, if we're upset, it's harder to get words out. It's hard to put things, to explain things. And for a child, yeah, they might have a sophisticated language, maybe even a 5-year-old, yet when they're upset, when they're feeling all emotional, anxious, it can be harder to put that into words. And it just comes out as dumb, stupid, bad, those deeper emotions and what's really going on. And they might be afraid to really share what they're really feeling.
Or feel embarrassed that, oh, well, they kind of can tend to should on themselves. I should I should be able to deal with this. Even at 5, I think they can kind of have that thought of, I really shouldn't be this way. Mom and dad have told me not to be this way, or they've shown me not to be this way. And it's embarrassing to feel it and then not feel like you can get it out.
Right. And it, kind of depends on what the dynamic has been all along with your child and how you communicate. And it's in these simpler, less stressful situations compared to bigger stressors in life, bigger challenges. And as our kids get older, the challenges can get a whole lot more difficult. There can be a whole lot more at stake, safety issues. And taking the time when our kids are young to learn these skills makes a big difference in how they communicate with us in the future.
Yeah, and in a way though too, I want to make sure that it isn't just about little kids though. That this is never too late to
Improve your
improve your
communication
communication, because
skills with
I was just, as we were talking, we didn't really talk about this, but what about a scenario of a teen when we don't listen to a teen? I'm trying to think, situations that, well, you probably remember from your teen years, times when your mom and dad didn't really listen, and you weren't able to express. I run into it a lot with my patients. Even the adults, I find when we dig into it, they can look back at a certain point in their time in their life when the parent really ignored a situation that was really profound to them, and it made a profound effect on them because they didn't get their parents to really listen.
They didn't feel heard. And so they have that lingering issue with feeling invisible, feeling like no one's paying attention to me, no one's listening. And so they might either make themselves louder or quieter.
Well, yeah, because one of the things in the tapping work I do, a lot of times I'll tap on the whole idea of, I lost my voice when I was very young, because the people that the people that a lot of times the people that can't get up in front of a crowd and speak in front of a crowd.
Lost my voice when I was very young.
Well, and I think we all, it's a very common thing to happen, is because of this, what we went through in that scenario was kind of the beginning stages of that kind of development, where just over and over again, you don't get a lot, you're really not allowed to express what you're really feeling. And then you become afraid to express what you're feeling after a while. And so you go into life with that. And then what I've seen too is these people go through their life and bring people and the situations to them that keep building on that same thing.
To kind of like replay out the scenario.
Yeah.
They find a partner who's similar to the parent, and they're re-experiencing that scenario and hoping it would be different. Yet kind of talking about, baggage that we carry around and issues that we have in relationships. And a lot of it boils down to communication. And at any point in our life, whether we're 5 or 95, or 105. People are living longer. We can choose differently. And acknowledging feelings. It doesn't even mean you have to accept what they're feeling, but just recognizing and acknowledging that they're having this feeling.
Allowing them to get it out, or speak it out or vent it out.
There's not a complex formula to doing that.
No.
And yet most people tend to jump in with answers. We don't like to see people upset. We want to fix it. We want someone to feel good, especially with our children. We want them to be happy and successful in this world and to enjoy experiences. And yet we're doing them a disservice when we don't allow them to have disappointment, frustration, sadness, fear, anger, all these feelings that we often label as negative. We need to allow them to have those feelings and give them appropriate outlets to express it.
Well, you get into a place where they, like I say, their voice in the future isn't there. They're not able to get out. So it affects them for forever, really. It kind of goes to this feeling. And one of the passions I have is that we are able to get this information to somebody at very early stages in a family, so that they can build a better relationship with their kids.
And it's the kind of skill when the workshops are geared for parents and focusing on that parent-child relationship. And yet, as we practice it, we're practicing the skills with other adults. It can be so helpful for two partners raising kids to practice it with each other. It can be, we've had grandparents on, we've had a grandmother and a mom and
the mom and the grandmother.
And the grandmother, and the grandmother had a lot to do with raising the child. So they were on it together. And so their relationship played out with things. And we're all learning the skills of communicating and listening better, because it's not only with children that we need to do this.
Yeah.
It's with everyone we encounter anywhere we go, whether we're buying something in a store and maybe you're trying to get help and the person's having a bad day, but all you see is that they're being rude or mean or whatever's going on with them.
And you don't know what's going on in the background,
right,
behind closed doors, or however you want to think about it.
Think about one of your bad days and, oh my gosh, I can't believe I acted like that in that store. I can't believe I said that to that salesperson, or and what was going on behind it.
Well, if it's okay, thinking about how with your dad, what you've been able to do to get your dad to calm down when he's had situations, you just listen to him.
So my dad has dementia. He has Parkinson's type dementia. There are lots of different types of dementia, and we'll delve into that more.
Did you mention that? Sorry, that was
And he has delusions where he thinks something's happened. He thinks someone's taken his money. He thinks there's common themes with all types of dementia. The spouse is cheating on them. The spouse is leaving them, taking the money. These things are kind of very common when someone's dealing with those types of things. And when he's wrapped in that delusion, that false thought, that's what feels real to him. And so there's a point where you can't really say,
can't fight it.
Can't like, Dad, that's not happening right now. But sometimes what I've been able to do to help him calm down is say, wow, okay, you're really scared right now. What can we do right now? Sometimes he tends to get into flight and he just wants to literally run out the door, and he has run out the door, down the street, gone to the neighbors, can you sit down, maybe put your feet up, let's get something to drink. Let's just, sit for a minute. Let me just hear you. Let's take a breath and we'll come up with a solution for this. And for my dad, that just being heard, that just not trying to solve it, change it, fix it, and sometimes the reassurance, letting him know, okay, we're going to take care of it. Can help calm him down to kind of get him out of that heightened place. And, with kids, they often really just want to be heard. And we miss that so many times when we, do this workshop, when we work with families. The biggest skill is just shutting up, tuning in to your child, stopping what you're doing, putting the phone down, turning your head, not to stare at them intently, but to acknowledge, to be looking at them and really making that effort to stop what you're doing. Because if you can take 5 minutes, sometimes it doesn't even take that, to set down what you're doing and say, oh, wow, you're really upset. You want to tell me more about that? You let them talk and they disappear, versus getting in a battle with them. Mom, you're not really listening. They start tugging on your sleeve. You get annoyed. Why are you always doing that? I'm trying to get things done. And you get in this battle. They huff off. And what have you done with your relationship? Yeah. And sometimes it really can be a shorter experience, the listening, although if we're not used to doing that, it can take a lot more effort. Reacting, if it's a pattern of what we've done, how we've heard other people talk to us and react, it's automatic. It doesn't feel like work. Whereas changing how we say things, changing how we respond to things, it takes an extra effort. And that's what's so great about this workshop, is we learn the skills together. There's little exercises where we just follow the script of cartoons, and then we literally practice playing the part of the child, playing the part of the parent. It helps to practice it and to put yourself in the shoes of a kid, remembering what it was like when you were a kid, how you might have felt. And so you get to practice those skills, because in order to get better at using them and in order to incorporate it into day-to-day life. One thing when we're first learning this, we can sound kind of prescribed as we're talking. Our daughter says to me, don't be a therapist.
Which is what you are, an occupational therapist.
This language of trying to listen and support her. She's 14.
Well, yeah, she used to. Our older daughter used to always say,
"Don't use that stuff on me.
Stop using that psychology stuff on me," or something like that. So yeah. Well, it kind of goes to our common thing we always talk about is, do you want the 15-minute conversation or an hour-long battle? And that's what these kind of, how you respond, how you communicate makes that difference in that.
Well, and what we're talking about is getting comfortable using it, making it work for you, making it part of your lifestyle. And so even though we practice certain ways of saying things, it might look differently. And the key is really believing that it's important to listen. Because if we don't believe that, I'm like, oh, I'm just going to follow this script. This book says, do this, say this, do this, say this.
Yeah,
you might not have any success at all. And a lot of books that talk about communication skills with children, cooperative parenting. What's the word I'm looking for?
Let me see if I can find it. Here.
Conscious parenting. There are a lot of books in theory, and it's a matter of understanding it, which is important. Yet it helps to have some practical things that we can do. Yet you can't just practice the skill without really getting the belief behind it.
Yeah.
It's got to be authentic, right? And so when we're doing anything different, when we're changing how we do things, there's going to be some unsteadiness, some disrupting of the pattern, depending on how different this language is compared to how you normally talk to your children.
Well, sometimes the kids they don't know what to do when you react differently. And they're like, what's going on? I think I can remember our kids kind of doing a little bit of that, of just, what? They weren't used to that, the way we approached them with that, and it threw them off just a little bit. But
we've told this story before, but it's fitting. So I found this book when, our oldest was a baby, and over the years I had read it and put it aside, forgotten kind of about it, and I was really trying to delve into it again when our oldest child was, I don't know if he was 6 or 8, and you tell the story well. Because you were standing off in the background, and he came charging down the stairs, mad at his sister,
raring out, what his sister had done and all this. And I was standing back away where you two couldn't see me, or I could see you, and you really didn't know I was observing. And if I would have been standing in front of the stairs when he came down, I probably would have said something, like, oh, come on, isn't that bad? Just go up, take care of it. What's the big deal? That would have been my poor response.
in similar situations,
Yeah, I mean,
what are you fighting about?
well,
Do you
and
need me to come up there?
yeah,
Even,
but
well-intentioned statements.
but in this particular situation, you kind of did a little bit of a step back and you go, wow, you're really upset. Tell me a little bit more. And like I said, I still can picture our oldest turning around like, are you talking to me? He wasn't used to that. And he went, well, and he went on talking more. And through that next part, all you did through the next part of that was to go, huh, really? Wow. Just little simple, no adding anything in,
Just
no.
acknowledging, because if you
Mhm.
just sit there and listen
Yeah, you
without
made noise.
without
Yeah.
saying anything, they're like, are you still here? So it's
Yeah.
like, just, oh wow, oh goodness,
Yeah. And then when he got to the end of it, he said, "Well, I just want to make sure anything else." And he said, "No, I don't think so." And then you really blew me away because you looked at me and said, "Well, so how do you think you could resolve this?" And he sat there and went, "Well, I don't know. I guess I could go talk to her." He kind of that talk, I guess, kind of that kind of. And you said, "Well, I think you actually said something like, do you need me to referee?" And he said, "No, I think I got it." He turned around and went upstairs, and 5 minutes later, the two were up there giggling and laughing and back to having a good time. And I can remember walking over to go, "What the hell did you do?" I was like, "What was that?" It just kind of, because my mouse is on the floor watching this, and you told you kind of reminded me about the book. I think you had told me about it before, and said, and that kind of that really set in me then, and kind of helped get me more and more to doing that myself,
and the
and
and the
it's
key
proven
with
out.
the key with that was I stopped what I was doing. I
Mhm.
paid attention. I took that few minutes to not get involved in this mess and this drama, right? A lot of times our kids are fighting. What's going on in here? You guys are doing this.
Yeah,
I was able to sort of be removed, and it kind of helped because he was up the stairs a little bit,
yeah,
and I was able to say, wow, you're upset. What's going on? And, like you said, and it's not like I never spoke that way to him,
no, but
but I wasn't, the reacting, and he shared. And at the key was letting him know, is there more? You want to tell me about this, and then how do you think you can resolve it? So instead of solving our problems for our children, it is so important to help them facilitate their own problem solving. And what better way is to have the opportunity in these small little situations so that when they're out there with friends, when they get older and they get in a difficult situation, that they have practiced problem solving skills and are not just turning to an adult or a peer to solve a problem. Because when our kids are teens and they're out there with friends and driving in cars with friends, and if they're good at doing what they're told, that's how kids get into, drugs and all kinds of situations, because
they're not thinking on their
they're
own.
good at doing what their friends are telling them to do rather than independently coming to decisions for themselves.
I think one time I don't know if I'm not sure, but I think one time you said, well, I don't want to ride in like some knight on white horses and save the day for them and solve their problems for them. I want them to be able to do that. And I thought that was really good. And it, like I said, I started using it with them, but I also used it in business. And I think I've told this story before, but I have one time, I was way back, I had my own web design business. And one of my customers called me up, and it was one of those kind of calls where you just want to almost pull the phone away because they were very upset. I can't believe, just kind of almost
Was
not
their email
screaming.
not working? That used to be the biggest complaint from your customers.
Well, I don't remember exactly what it was, but it was really, and he just was like, at me. And when he got quiet, I said, "Wow, you're really upset. I'd like to know more." And I just shut up. And it got really quiet on the other line. I thought he hung up on me at first. And I said, "Are you still there?" And he said, "Wow, I've never had anybody respond to me like that before." And it was so interesting because his energy, just like our son's energy, went down dramatically after that. And we were able then to, I just, because then I said, wow, it sounds like a lot of things have happened that we need to talk about. Let's talk through this. And we did. And it wasn't like I folded to everything that he wanted to do, but he'd say, well, you did this and I need this done. And and some of them I would say, well, that one, I don't know that I could do that. How about if we did this? And we went back and it ended up being a really good conversation. And in fact, at the end, we were kind of laughing and joking, and it resolved it. And the conversation took maybe 10, 15 minutes versus, if I would have backfired on
Lost a
him,
customer.
yeah, lost customer, I would have been on the phone for listening to him just continue,
And when you got off the call with him, how would that have affected you? And
yeah,
the rest of your interactions with people, you could have been so annoyed at him. You could take it out on
ruin your day or whatever, however you want to say it.
Around you. And
so it changed a lot, and I don't think people realize how much we hear it from when we're doing the workshops. About 2 weeks into it, parents will come back to us and say, not only did it help their communication, but they noticed a behavior change, and they noticed the anxiety and the stress of the house kind of had gone down some. So it affects so much more than we ever imagine by how we communicate and how we talk and how like I say, we really allow them to express their feelings and talk.
So just think about yourself. If you're upset, if you've had something's happened to you, who you turn to. Usually the person who maybe listens well. It could be your partner, it could be your friend, it could be someone else, maybe your mom. And what do you want from them? When you're, oh, I had this bad day, the traffic was awful, and I had difficulty, my schedule was all messed up, and
oh, that sucks.
I taught him to say that. Because what I want is not someone to solve this for me, someone to justify what happened, to try to fix it. I just want to be heard. I just want to be able to vent. And that's like your client, they vented to you and you gave them that space to do that. And even though it was all coming at you, you were able to be, and it's kind of a needing to step back from the situation. And so sometimes, if we have a good friend, it's a little easier to be stepped back, versus someone you live with. It can be trickier with a spouse or partner. Or,
but it does work. We have, when we do it and when it has helped us through a lot of different stuff.
And so kids, they need that too. And I know sometimes you hear a kid griping about something and you got dinner you got to make, you've got to get things ready, you got to plan for the trip you're taking, and their little squabble about a toy or whatever
doesn't seem powerful to you.
It seems so minuscule, like, I'll give you something to have problems about,
I'll give you something to talk about, cry about.
But to them, that's important to them. And if we don't acknowledge what's important to them, whether they're 4, whether they're 10 or 15, and even a teen, what is important to them still looks different from us. Even though they're talking and looking like adults, they're not fully. They're not a 30, 40-year-old parents who's raised children. They're still growing and developing. As we've said many times before, the brain continues to grow and develop. And with more research over the years, they said the 20s, now they're saying even to the late 20s, that we're still developing those cognitive skills, at higher level thinking and problem solving. And think about, even a teen, their prior experience that they have to pull from is much more shallow than we have as an adult, middle-aged, older adult. And we have to recognize, no matter where someone's at, that that's what they're dealing with. That's what's frustrating to them. Mm-hmm. And it's tough when it's in your own home and your relationship with your family and the dynamics going on between each other, and what's happening with one person's affecting the other. And, you're in the middle of dinner and maybe you have a baby and the older 2 kids are fighting, and you can't just, walk away from the stove, leave the baby unattended to go, talk with the kids. But you can foster better communication and, starting with simple situations and building upon it.
Well, and to think about this too, is that your words coming out, especially negative words, can be traumatizing to a small, even what you think are simple words that you're saying, or a simple thought that you, or a phrase that you put out, maybe seem not so tough, but can be, and I've seen this in adult patients where when we start kind of delving back into it, their mom or dad said one phrase to them that led them down a road of, you know, and I right now my mind's kind of blank on a certain phrase, but
I've got a simple example.
yeah.
So this person in my child's life, when she was maybe 4, she was put an outfit together herself, and they said, "You're going to wear that? What are people going to think of me?" And our daughter took it to never wear that particular shirt again. It was
Mm-hmm.
about wearing like plaid with stripes or something, but and that's something simple and whatever. So she just affiliated that shirt with being bad, but kids can take things very literally.
Mm-hmm.
I used to use the expression, well, that's not pretty. And I wasn't talking about my child, it was about something that had happened. But I kind of clued in at one point saying, okay, maybe I need to change that phrase of
Mm-hmm.
what I'm saying because, like you said, they can take things literally. And a lot of times we're not intending to be mean when we say things. Maybe we're joking around, throwing a little sarcasm in there. And that's something to really be careful of because
How they interpret it.
young kids, and even think about yourself. If you're upset and you're talking to a friend, and if they're sarcastic and it's not in the right
Mm-hmm.
time frame, it's upsetting. And a child is still grasping the language and cognitive skills, and so sarcasm can really
Well,
throw them off.
they
And
don't have really good filters. They take things, like you say, literally. They a lot of sometimes don't have support from their family and how to deal with certain things. So they can take something in, and I always talk about the fact, wouldn't it be great at 5 years old if we were able to look back and say, well, I think mom's dealing with a little bit of bipolar, and maybe it's some AD, but they can't. They don't have that development.
it's not their
So
role as a child.
no, I know it
And,
isn't, but
and,
I'm just
and that's
saying,
something we have to make sure we're not putting out onto our children is our own issues and expecting
well,
them to
that's
be the parent for us. That's a whole nother
yeah, that
conversation.
is.
So we've kind of went through this scenario and kind of played out how it typically might play. And again, this is coming right out of the workbook. And when we do these workshops, there are examples of kids of all different ages. Um, so, we've done this workshop with parents of young kids and with 10, 12-year olds, as well as with teens. And we can,
Well, in fact, we had one gentleman that was in, I think it was one of the last classes we had. He had called me before he signed up for it, and he said, I don't know. This book says it's about kids and children, and I have teens. I don't know if this is going to work for me. And in fact, he's actually did a testimonial on it. But I said, well, I find it even works for adults. So I don't think there's any reason it wouldn't affect teens also. And he came out afterwards saying, I doubted it, but now I've seen, and it has worked with teens. Because with him in particular, one of the things I was going to say in our workshops, one of the neat things that we do is sometimes we will go with something that's happening for somebody right then and there, an actual scenario, and do the same kind of role play through it. And that's the neat thing about the workshop is you have this interaction between parents and other parents, and one will say something. So, oh, well, I've tried this, and maybe that would work, and it was really neat to be able to. For him, we played out a teen role, and like I said, it really helped him. So, like I said, this I really like the main book, even though they came out with a teens book. This one is just as powerful, and it's just a matter of having to. Um, you got to be able to change the language as you go into the different years.
well, and this book was written in the 80s, and the workbook was written maybe in the 90s. I'm not sure. And so even some of the examples can feel a little dated.
Billy and Bobby and Janie.
But we all talk differently depending on where we are in the
Yeah.
country, depending on our age and our background and things. And so finding the nuances and how you might say it. That
Yeah.
takes a little finesse, but that's where the practice is fun. And we do these by Zoom. And so you're online, and we've never had more than 8 or 10 people together. Sometimes we have a parent without their spouse. Um, I'm trying to think. We people who are co-parenting but not together are certainly welcome on there.
We
Um,
had somebody that was very involved with their nephew or niece. I can't remember the name, and she wanted to be on. So, and
we
she came from a background, I think, a teaching background, but she wanted to be on to know how to be able to handle her nephew or niece, whatever it was. And then also, like I said, she was using it for adult situations also.
and it's great if both parents can
Yeah.
participate, because then it's really something you're learning together, and it just makes it that much easier to kind of change the vibe in the family and to incorporate some new ways of really listening. And like you said, I mean, it manifests in how they act, because if a kid feels heard, you know when kids are acting out, they do really want our attention. And it's not always a conscious, like, oh, mom's not listening to me, I think I'll take a crayon and draw on the wall. It's kind of like, if we react to them when they're doing negative things, well, then that's how they're getting our attention.
Yeah.
And so it fuels that, like, oh, I gotta, if I want mom to, that's the only time I get that attention, is if I'm doing something negative. And so it becomes ingrained into them in a way that and we don't realize that.
Well, and that goes to true for the parents too. We're following patterns of our parents, and they're following pattern. It kind of goes back in not decades, but in
Generation.
generations. Thank you. But one following the pattern of how they learn to be parents from their parents, who learned from their and on back. And so that one of the things I always try to do in the work I do with parents and we do with parents is try to help them to break that pattern. And one of the ways is through the communication. Changing your communication can help break some of that pattern that you learned from your parents. And not to beat up the parents of the parents, but to know that again they're doing what they know they can do best, or know how to do best, is and learning from their parents.
Right. And learning that, we can always improve how we're doing things. I first read this book years ago. That baby of mine is now 26. And I've reread the books over the years. We started doing these workshops.
Oh,
I
about
think we,
four
we
years ago.
started before COVID.
Yeah.
So maybe around 2018, 2019, that we started these workshops. And like, doing the workshop kind of really helps me tune in to how I'm responding to my kids, because each of our kids have different personalities. We've got 3. And parenting looks different. We can't parent each child the same. That's an unrealistic expectation.
Mm-hmm.
They're born at different times in our lives. Different things are happening. The first child is born into a world of they're the only one versus later children.
Well, we've had to actually use the responses while we're doing the workshop and being interrupted once or twice during the workshop and having to respond to a child
Mm-hmm.
while we're live on a workshop.
And so, we so
So
we do these workshops. We limit it to small groups, and then so we're on Zoom. We share the information, um, and then we read through. We kind of involve everybody on doing some of the exercises, and then we'll do splitting people up into groups. And it can be helpful to put um, one mom with a different mom
mm-hmm.
to kind of being there and getting someone to, especially if someone's having a particular issue, like a situation hits home, like, oh, my kid's going through a similar thing. If they get to play the kid in the role,
Yeah, then they
and
can.
have the other parent responding as the
They
adult.
always, it's been amazing to hear them when we come back and talk about how did that feel to you, and a good majority of the time they'll go, wow, now I can really get a better sense of what my child was going through. I didn't realize it would be that powerful when they actually, even though these role plays are they're a little difficult because we're not a child, but they actually kind of get into it and really get
And
the
it's not,
sense of it.
they're not super intense,
Yeah.
acting skills, but really putting yourself in the situation, taking that hour or two for the class to focus on it, versus, oh, when I was a kid, yeah, I remember what it was like. And you're just ranting and going off the top of your head, versus kind of really making that effort to do this. So having that experience and having to, be one-on-one with another parent, and being able to practice the skills then on your own with your partner, or if you can, join with a friend, however you want to do it. And then each week we come back, we kind of review, and then we learn into the next skill, because there's 6 different chapters of this book focusing on kind of different areas.
So should we
We're gonna
re-roll it
we're gonna
and
replay.
replay it and with a better way of handling it?
So how could I have responded differently? So we're in the car. We just come back from leaving the circus, and we're quiet in the car.
That circus was really dumb.
Oh wow! It sounds like you didn't like it.
No, I didn't. It just the animals. The animals smelled.
Okay, so that really bothered you. Is there more?
Yeah, I was just and there were so many people around. I just felt crowded in and I don't know, it just bothered me. But I didn't know we'd be around that many people.
Sounds like the amount of people there was overwhelming, and the animals, yeah, have lots of smells, and I know you're really sensitive to different smells.
I was looking forward to it. I was kind of excited, and then when we got there, it started to bother me. And then there were other kids around. I didn't want to look stupid in front of them.
Sounds, disappointing. You thought it was going to look one way when we went, and it looked very different when we got there.
Yeah, I don't know if I want to go back to the zoo, to the circus anymore.
You didn't really have a good time.
No. But cotton candy was good.
Okay. I'm glad you found
and
something.
and the ice cream, we did have ice cream too. That was pretty good. So I guess that was okay.
I'm glad you told me this. I didn't think about all those different factors playing into it.
Yeah, I was kind of scared.
A little bit scared.
Those animals come out, and I wait for it to go jump over and get me or something.
Yeah, that's frightening.
I'm tearing up. It's affecting me. Mom, why you do that to me? I don't know. I really got into it. So anyway.
So the questions. What were your feelings as you talked to your parents?
I was feeling very, very sad and kind of a little bit angry.
Okay.
How
did you feel about the circus when the conversation was over?
I get emotional over these things. Can I have the box?
You asked for a tissue.
Yeah.
Not the entire box. I thought you would pull a tissue.
Role playing.
We have feelings that get bottled up inside of us.
Yes, maybe there's something in my childhood.
And things get bottled up, and they come out in funny ways. I've got one kid who holds things in, and they get angry about things, and it's coming out as anger because they're suppressing. They feel embarrassed. They feel dumb for feeling the way they feel, feeling different than other people, and they bottle it up, and it can come out as anger.
Well, I remember as a kid, just a little story, but about not being heard or seen as a child. And when my mom and dad, I don't know, I think I was probably about 10. My mom and dad had their 25th anniversary, and they made a big thing of it. They had a reception and band and all that stuff. But my brothers and my one sister decided to go in together and plan a trip for them, like a second honeymoon kind of a trip for them.
And they're much older than you.
Yeah.
Most of them were adults already.
My oldest brother is 12 years older than I am, and the nearest, besides the sister I lost, the nearest is 5 years from me.
So they had jobs, they had money.
And they excluded me from the plans. And then the day that they decided to tell mom and dad about it, it was all new to me, and it hit me like a ton of bricks. I felt so mad and upset and frustrated, left out, and they said, well, we were just, they tried to justify all kinds of stuff instead of just listening to me. We thought you don't hold secrets very well, and we thought you'd tell them, and we didn't want them to tell it. We wanted you to be part of it, but blah, blah, just. And I remember I sat out on the front porch and I cried. I was just so upset, and it's affected me this day. I'm mad at you, brothers. No, I think I got over that. But it was it's something that really bothered me, really affected me for quite a long time. I just didn't feel like I was heard or trusted or any of that.
And as being the youngest of
Yeah.
6 total siblings, would you like to talk more about this?
Well, if I could. No, I'll leave that for a therapist. And I have been to therapy for it.
And not, we make light of that, and yet, things in our life do affect us, and
Oh,
it
yeah.
does affect how we respond to our kids. And we might think, oh, it's no big deal. I was raised, I turned out okay. My parents said this to me and I'm okay. Yet
Now it goes,
when
well,
you get in a real difficult situation, when you're as a teen with other teens, and how you're going to respond and react, and do you feel comfortable coming home to talk to your parents when there's an issue going on, or you feel like they're not going to really listen anyhow, so why bother?
well, yeah, and then it gets buried kind of deep, and it'll come up, and you don't even really recognizing
You'll be
it
doing a
coming up.
podcast and role playing the child with going to the circus, and tears will start flowing. So we want to tell you more about the workshop that we're going to be doing. So this is designed as a 6-week, 2-hour sessions. And we found for many parents, it helps to split it up into 1-hour increments, because it can be hard to set aside a 2-hour block of time. And so we have done this once again, where we break it up. So like twice a week. And what days of the week have we chosen, Donald?
Well, it's January 9th. It's a Tuesday and Thursday.
And so from 12 to 1, which is Eastern Standard Time. So for 6 weeks, that's the amount of time you need to take. The amount of outside homework involved,
Double check my time.
It's very minimal. Each week you read a chapter of the book, and the chapters are about 20 pages. And a lot of that is pictures with cartoons and things like that on it. And you can also get the book on, I almost said tape, but audio version.
VCR.
We do have a CD copy of the How to Talk So Teens Will Listen book that I put in our car that does have a CD player, but you can get it on an audio file so that you can listen to it. It helps to read the material. Some people that have come to us have already read the book. It helps to kind of at least read through it again. And then when we get together, we do the exercises. We give you a simple little assignment of something to try to focus on until the next session.
Yeah.
And so taking 6 weeks out of your busy life, 2 hours.
It's an investment that pays off.
Once a week. And, these are important communication skills. It's something we talk about, how it's important to listen to people. In businesses, they do communication skills workshops. They incorporate this. And what about in families and interacting with others? Your child's going to a therapist, or you're going to a therapist, but what about the whole family having an opportunity to work together and just to feel heard? Mm-hmm. I like to focus on the feelings, because each chapter builds on each other. And when in doubt, your kid's upset, whatever's going on, acknowledging their feelings, just start there. It can make a big difference. And we'd love for you to try that. We'd love to hear your feedback, your comments, also your frustrations and what challenges. You got a particular situation that you're struggling with. Don and I have worked with families with kids with some special needs, with anxiety issues, different diagnoses, because we dealt with that with our own kids. My background as an occupational therapist is helpful in that. And as always, we encourage you to continue with therapists and other things that you have. But, we'd love to do you can join us for our upcoming workshop, but we'd also love to set up a workshop for you and a particular group of people that you're part of. Let us know. With the power of Zoom, we can come live to you wherever you are.
And it's going to help your ROKI, your return on your kid's investment.
Yeah, me.
And if you want to find out more, you can simply go to focushealthyfamily.com/workshops.
So learn about our workshops, catch all our other podcasts. Every Thursday, we drop a new one. Tuesday, we do a shortened Tuesday tips for parents, where we go through some different tips. You can find blogs and all our information. Again, be looking
Facebook, Instagram, all of that.
Be looking up for these workshops coming up in January, or letting us know if you're interested. If either for that workshop or a future one
that you want to do it with,
and to reach out and connect with us. And remember,
how you treat your kids today, or how you speak to your kids today,
How you speak to your kids today
shapes their future and
and
yours.
yours.
Look at this. We know this one. Take care.